The total bill for 3 friends eating at Olive Garden is $64.99 with tax included. They plan to add an 18% tip and then split the bill evenly among themselves. How much will each friend pay rounded to the nearest cent? So now's your chance if you'd like to pause the video, try to figure this out, take all the time you need, and then whenever you're ready, just unpause the video and we'll talk about it. Okay, so the first thing that I'm going to do here is figure out the tip. So we're going to do $64.99 times 0.18. And that's going to tell me what the tip is. So I get 11.6982. So now what I'm going to do, since I know what the tip is, I'm going to add it to this $64.99. So I'm going to do $64.99 plus 11.6982. So that's my next move here. And the reason that we're doing this again is because we had the $64.99 and we figured out what an 18% tip would be. So then we're going to take that tip and add it back to the bill to figure out what they're going to pay. So when I do that, I get 76.6882. Now, the final step here, since there are 3 friends, is to take the 76.6882 and divide that by 3. And so when I get my answer here and I round it to the nearest cent, I have 25.56. 25.56. So D is the correct answer here. John's rectangular yard is 20 meters longer than it is wide. If the total length of the fence around his property is 140 meters, what is the width of the yard in meters? And just to save you some time, since we're just practicing, I took the formula for the perimeter of a rectangle from the formula sheet and I put it right here on the question. And when you go to take the real test, if you get a question like this, you'll want to go to the formula sheet and pick out the formula to use. I'm just providing it now for the sake of time since we're just practicing. So now's your chance, if you'd like to pause the video, take all the time you need with this. And if you get stuck, absolutely no worries because we're just going to go over it. So I'll give you a chance to try it now if you'd like to. Okay, so let's go over this. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to start by writing out 2 equations. Now, we know here John's rectangular yard is 20 meters longer than it is wide. So I'm going to write L equals 20 plus W, because the rectangular yard is 20 meters longer than it is wide. Now, we also know that the perimeter of a rectangle is 2L plus 2W, and we know that the total length of the fence around his property is 140 meters. So in other words, the perimeter is 140 meters. So I can write 140 equals 2L plus 2W. So what do we want to find here? Well, we need to find the width of the yard in meters. So that's what we ultimately need to find. So how do we do that? Well, I'm going to start by looking at the first equation, this L equals 20 plus W. And what I'm going to do is come down into my second equation here, and I'm going to plug 20 plus W into the second equation for L. So if you're not sure what I mean here, let me write it out here. So I'm going to take the second equation, the 140 equals 2L plus 2W, but I'm not going to write this L here. So what I'm going to write in place of this L is 20 plus W, because we know that L equals 20 plus W. So I have 2 parenthesis 20 plus W plus this 2W. Okay, so next what I'm going to do is distribute this 2. So in other words, I'm going to take this 2 and I'm going to multiply it by 20, and then I'm also going to multiply it by W. So let me rewrite this. So when I rewrite, I have 140 equals 40 plus 2W plus 2W. So now what I can do, since I have 2W plus 2W, I can just add the 2's and bring the W along for the ride. So in other words, when I do 2W plus 2W, I get 4W. So now I'm at this 140 equals 40 plus 4W. And there's one move that we could make to simplify this, right? So we could divide each number here by 4, and that would simplify this. But you don't have to do that. You can just look at this and you can start solving for W. Now, when I say solve for W, what do I mean by that? What I mean is that we want to get the W by itself. So let's assume that we don't simplify. First, how do I do that? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to subtract 40 from both sides here. So if I subtract 40 from the right-hand side here, the 40s are going to cancel out. And if I subtract 40 over here, I end up with 100. So if I rewrite this, I'll have 100 equals 4W. Now again, the name of the game here is to get this W by itself. So I have 4W, that's 4 times W. The opposite of times is divide. So if I divide by 4 over here, I'm going to get the W by itself. But whatever I do to one side, I also have to do it to the other. So I'm going to have to do 100 divided by 4. And when all is said and done, we get 25 equals W. So the answer here is D, 25. Speed of 60 miles per hour, Jack leaves his house and drives 180 miles to visit his friend. 5 hours later, Jack makes the return trip, while also traveling at an average speed of 60 miles per hour. What is the total amount of time that elapsed between when Jack first left home and his final arrival back at home? Is the answer A, B, C, or D? So now's your chance, if you'd like to pause the video, try to figure this out. Oh, and I should say this formula up here, this is D equals RT, distance equals rate times time. And if you want to use this formula for a question like this on your test, you'll want to go to the formula sheet and pick out this formula, but I just put it here for the sake of time since we're just practicing. So let me give you a chance now, if you'd like to pause the video, try to figure this out, take all the time you need, and then whenever you're ready, just unpause the video and we'll talk about it. Okay, so let me just kind of map this out before we jump in here. So let's say that this is Jack's house here, and let's say that this is Jack. So Jack starts at his house and he leaves and goes to his friend's house. So here's Jack's friend's house. And 5 hours later, Jack goes back to his house. So let's just keep this in mind here as we do the question. So first, we can use this formula, D equals RT, to figure out how long it took for him to go from his house to his friend's house. So we know that he's traveling at an average speed of 60 miles per hour. Now, this word per here is a clue that we have a rate. So 60 miles per hour, that's a rate. And again, the word per is our clue that this is a rate. So in the formula, D equals RT, I'm going to plug 60 in for R. Now we know that he leaves his house and drives 180 miles. So that's a distance. So I'm going to plug 180 into the formula here for D. So when I rewrite this D equals RT, I'm going to have 180 equals 60 times T. Now the name of the game here is to get this T by itself. So what am I going to do here? I have 60T. That's 60 times T. So I want to do the opposite of times, which is divide. So I'm going to divide, and whatever I do to one side, I also have to do to the other. So I divide by 60 on both sides. The 60s cancel out over here. So on this side, I have 180 divided by 60. And so when I do the math, I get 3 equals T. So we know now that it takes him 3 hours to go from his house to his friend's house. Then he's going to spend 5 hours at his friend's house, and then he's going to drive back. And how long is it going to take him to drive back? Well, it's the same distance, and he's going at the same average speed, so it's also going to take 3 hours to go from his friend's house back to his house. So 3 plus 5 plus 3 is 11, and the answer here is A, 11 hours. Kelly plays college basketball. She has 8 games left in the season. Kelly has scored 920 points in her college basketball career. How many points must she score to reach 1,000 career points? So now's your chance, if you'd like to pause the video, try to figure this out, take all the time you need, and then whenever you're ready, just unpause the video and we'll talk about it. Okay, so what we have to do here is we want to take 1,000 and we're going to subtract 920. Now, you could do this in a calculator, you could do it by hand, you could do it however you want to do it, but the answer here is 80. And one thing that I want to point out here is that sometimes in math questions, there's extra information that's added in that isn't necessary to get the question right. So here it tells us she has 8 games left in the season. But the way to get the question right is to do 1000 minus 920. And the answer here is C, 80. A contracting company charges $30 per hour for each person working, plus an additional $6 for each mile driven to get to the worksite and back. If there are 8 workers working for 5 hours each, and the total distance driven is 38 miles, what is the total cost? Is the answer A, B, C, or D? So now's your chance if you'd like to pause the video, try this out, take all the time you need, and if you get stuck, absolutely no worries because we're just going to go over it. Okay, so the way that I'm going to break this down is by first calculating the cost of labor, and then I'm going to calculate the cost of travel, and then I'm going to add them together to get the final answer. So how do we do this? Well, the first thing we have to see here is that there are 8 workers, and they're working for 5 hours each. And we know that the company charges $30 per hour for each person working. So to start us off here, I'm going to do 8 times 5 times 30. So I do 8 times 5 times 30. And when I do the math here, I get 1,200. So the cost for the labor is 1,200. So now let's look at the cost for travel. So the cost of travel, how do we get that? Well, we know that the total distance driven is 38 miles, and we know that it's $6 for each mile driven. So we're going to do 38 times 6, and 38 times 6 is 224. So to bring us home here, what we have to do is add 1,200 and 224. So we want to do 1,200 plus 224. And in a calculator, or you could have done this by hand if you wanted to, however you wanted to do it, the answer is C. Kristen's hockey team played 4 games last year and won 16. Kristen played in each game. What percentage of the games did the team win last year? Is the answer A, B, C, or D? So now's your chance if you'd like to pause the video, try to figure this out, take all the time you need, then whenever you're ready, just unpause the video and we'll talk about it. So to get this right, what we have to do is part over whole times 100, and that gives us the answer. So what we're going to do is 4 over 16 times 100. And you can just put this in your calculator and that will give you the answer. The answer here is D, 25. And again, when it comes to a percent calculation like this one, you want to take the smaller number, which is 4. That's going to be the part, and you take the bigger number, which here is 16, and that's what we put in for whole, and you do part over whole times 100, and D is the correct answer to this one. Ken has an injured wrist, and Mike has an injured elbow. Due to their upper body injuries, they walk laps around a track during gym class instead of playing dodgeball. Ken can walk around the track in 8 minutes, while Mike can walk around the track in 6 minutes. If both Ken and Mike start walking at the same time, how long in minutes will it take for them to finish a lap at the same time? Is the answer A, B, C, or D? So now's your chance if you'd like to pause the video, try to figure this out, take all the time you need, and then whenever you're ready, just unpause the video and we'll talk about it. Okay, so the way that I'm going to do this is I'm going to start by listing my times tables here for 6 and 8, and I want to try to find the smallest number that shows up on both lists as one of the answers. And if you're not sure what I mean, let me show you here. So we can start with 6 times 1 and 8 times 1. So 6 times 1 is just 6. 8 times 1 is just 8. And again, what I want to do is just go through my times tables here, and I want to look for the smallest answer that shows up on both lists. So 6 times 2 is 12. 8 times 2 is 16. 6 times 3 is 18. And 8 times 3 is 24. And I realize more and more how bad my handwriting actually is, so I do apologize for that, and I appreciate you sticking with me anyway. Now, 6 times 4 is 24, so look at this, we have a match here. So we see that 24 shows up on both lists, and the answer here is B, 24. So this question was a matter of finding the least common multiple. Tara is planning to move to a new city. In preparation for her move, she is shipping 8 bins that all have the same weight, one crate that weighs 14 pounds, and a second crate that weighs 6 pounds. The total weight of the shipment is 102 pounds. What is the weight of each bin measured in pounds? Is it A, B, C, or D? So now's your chance if you like to pause the video, try to figure this out, take all the time you need, and then whenever you're ready, just unpause the video and we'll talk about it. Okay, so I'm going to start by making an equation here, and we know that the total weight is 102 pounds. And we know that this consists of those 8 bins that are all the same weight. So I'm just going to write 8B here. And we need to find the weight of each bin, which is what B represents. So B is the weight of one bin. So now I'm going to add to this 8 because we know, or no. So now I'm going to add to this 14 because we know that there's a crate that's 14 pounds. And we know that there's a second crate that weighs 6 pounds. So here's how I'm going to set this up. 120 equals 8B plus 14 plus 6. And the name of the game here is to find B. And that's going to give us the answer. So let's do some math here. 14 plus 6 is 20. So I can rewrite this now. And by the way, when you do your work, whether you're practicing or on the test, it's up to you to decide if you want to write out each step. I like to write out each step for teaching purposes, but it's up to you to decide if you think that's going to be worth your time or not when you go into the actual test. But anyway, we now have 102 equals 8B plus 20. So there's a plus sign here in front of this 20, so I'm going to do the opposite to get rid of it. I'm going to subtract. So I'm going to subtract 20 from both sides, because whatever I do on one side, I also have to do on the other side. So I'm running out of room, so I'm going to jump up here next. And 102 minus 20 is 82. So I now have 82 equals 8B. And what I have to do now to bring us home is divide by 8 on both sides, right? Because 8B is 8 times B. The opposite of times is divide. So the 8's cancel out here on the right, and on the left, I get 10.25. So 10.25 equals B. And the answer here is A. Joe wants to take 2 books with him on vacation. If he has 6 books to choose from, how many possible combinations of the 6 books can he take? Is the answer A, B, C, or D? So now's your chance if you'd like to pause the video, try to figure this out, take all the time you need, and then whenever you're ready, just unpause the video and we'll talk about it. So for combinations questions, I like to use this formula here. And unfortunately, this isn't a formula that will be provided to you on the formula sheet when you go in to take the test. So if you get a question like this and you want to use the strategy with the formula here, unfortunately, you'll want to memorize this formula. So again, totally up to you to decide if you want to do that or not. But just know again that if you get a combinations question on the test and you want to use this formula to answer it, this won't be provided to you on the test. So that being said, how do we use this formula? What do the exclamations mean? Well, the exclamation means multiply all whole numbers from the given number down to 1. And I know that probably sounds super confusing, and I think once I put the numbers to it, it'll hopefully make more sense. So if that's completely confusing for you, absolutely no worries, because we're just going to break this down using numbers. Now, n is the total number of objects in the set, and r is the total number of choosing objects. So which one's which? We've got these two numbers here, right? We've got 2 and we've got 6. And I know since n is the total number of objects in the set, that n is going to be the bigger number. So n is 6 and r is 2. So r is the total number of choosing objects. So the question says Joe wants to take 2 books. So in other words, Joe's going to choose 2 different books. So r equals 2 and n equals 6. So n is the bigger number. So now I'm going to take these numbers and I'm going to plug them into the formula. So let me do that here. So I've got n factorial, right? I've got this n and this exclamation. So I'm not just going to write 6. I know that n equals 6, but in the formula, it's not just n here, it's n exclamation. So what I have to do is remember that the exclamation means multiply all whole numbers from the 6 down to 1. So I'm going to do 6 times 5 times 4 times 3 times 2 times 1. So now let me come down here to the bottom of the formula, and I've got r factorial, parenthesis n minus r parenthesis, and then I see another exclamation here. So r is the total number of choosing objects. So we know that r is 2. Now in the formula here, it's not just r, right? It's r factorial or r exclamation, whatever you want to call it. So I have to do 2 times 1. Now, fortunately, 2 times 1 is pretty simple. So let's move on now to the parentheses here. So I've got parenthesis n minus r parenthesis exclamation. Now, n minus r is 4, right? Since n is 6 and r is 2. And I've got this exclamation out here. So what I have to do is 4 times 3 times 2 times 1. Okay, so let me write parentheses here, and then I'm going to put 4 times 3 times 2 times 1. So now we can simplify this because I've got 4 times 3 times 2 times 1 up here in the top, and I also have it down here. So we can actually cancel this out here. And when I rewrite this, I have 6 times 5 over 2 times 1. So 6 times 5 is 30, and 2 times 1 is 2. So I've got 30 divided by 2, and 30 divided by 2 is 15. So when all is said and done here, the answer is C, 15. 3 friends are playing a video game. Arnold's score is 8 points more than Sarah's, but 5 points less than Ralph's. If Ralph has 30 points, how many points does Sarah have? Is the answer A, B, C, or D? So now's your chance if you'd like to pause the video, try to figure this out, take all the time you need, and then whenever you're ready, just unpause the video and we'll talk about it. Okay, so I'm going to break this one down by writing out equations based off of the information. So we know Arnold's score is 8 points more than Sarah's. So I'm going to write A equals 8 plus S. Now we also know that Arnold's score is 5 points less than Ralph's. So I can also write A equals R minus 8. Or I'm sorry, did I say 8? It should be minus 5. R minus 5. Now we're told directly that Ralph has 30 points. So we know that R equals 30. So to start us off here, I'm going to take this 30 and I'm going to plug it in here for R. Now, I know I've said this before, but when you go to take your test or even when you're practicing, it's up to you to decide if you want to write every step out like this. I just like to do this when I teach. So we now have A equals 30 minus 5. And what is 30 minus 5? 30 minus 5 is 25. So C, 25 is the right answer. Or is it? Well, let's go back and review what we need to find here. How many points does Sarah have? Well, right now we found that A equals 25. So we need to find S. And we can use the fact that A equals 25 to help us get S. So I'm going to come back here to this equation, A equals 8 plus S, and I'm going to rewrite it, but instead of writing A, I'm going to write 25, because we know that 25 equals A. So we have 25 equals 8 plus S. And to get S by itself, what we have to do is subtract 8 from both sides here. And when we do that, we'll see that the answer is S equals 17. So B is the correct answer here. The next question is this video's Champions Challenge question. I almost went with a different question before I went with this one, so if you think there was a harder question than this one in the video, let me know down below in the comments if you'd like to. And without further ado, let's get into this video's Champions Challenge question. Thank you for watching. Hugh and his wife Judy take their 11-year-old son Jimmy and his 2 friends who are the same age as Jimmy to the theater to see a movie. Jimmy's aunt, who is an adult, is also going along. The cost of a child's ticket for children 12 and under is 1/4 the cost of an adult's ticket. The total ticket cost for 3 adults and 3 children is $48. If each child's ticket costs 1/4 of each adult's ticket, how much does one adult ticket cost? So now's your chance if you'd like to pause the video, try to figure this out, take all the time you need, and then whenever you're ready, just unpause the video and we'll talk about it. Okay, so I'm going to start off here by writing out an equation. So I'm going to start with 48 because we know that the total ticket cost is $48. And we know that there are 3 adults. So I'm going to write 3A and 3 children. So I'm going to say 48 equals 3A plus 3C. Now, we also know here that the cost of one child's ticket for 12 and under is 1/4 the cost of an adult's ticket. So I can say C equals 1/4 A. And the name of the game here now is to take this 1/4A, and I'm going to come up here and I'm going to plug it in to this first equation here in place of C. So I have over here 48 equals 3A plus 3 times 1/4A. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to do 3 times 1. All right, so 3 times 1 is just 3. So I can rewrite this again, and I can, instead of writing 3 times 1/4A, I can just write 3/4A. So let me just back up here and erase this, and I'm going to write 3/4A. And for teaching purposes, I like to write out all the steps here. And the next step here is to add. So I want to do 3A plus 3/4A. But before I can add, I have to get a common denominator. So whenever you have to add fractions, you want to get a common denominator. The denominator is just the bottom number in a fraction. And the top number in a fraction, we call that the numerator. So I've got 3 times A, right? So I just assume here, since we don't see a number down here in the bottom of the fraction, we just assume that it's 1. So what I want to do here is I want to multiply this 1 by 4, because then the denominators are going to match. But then I'm also going to have to multiply this 3 by 4. So what I'm going to get when I do that is 48 equals 12/4A plus 3/4A. So now what I'm going to do is 12 plus 3, and I'm going to keep the 4 in the denominator, so I'm going to make that 15/4, and I just bring the A along for the ride. Okay, so when I add 12/4A and 3/4A, I get 15/4A. So again, here's how I got that. So since 12/4A and 3/4A, they have that same denominator. They both have 4's in the denominators. So I did 12 plus 3, and I kept the 4 in the denominator, right? And that's how I have 15/4, and I just brought that A along for the ride. So I have 15/4A and equals 48. So how do I finish out now? So what I'm going to do is multiply by 4 on both sides, right? So I do times 4 over here, the 4's cancel out, and then I'm going to have to do 48 times 4, and I'm running out of room here on the board. But then I'll have 15 times A. So what I have to do is divide by 15 on both sides. If I do that, the 15's will cancel out over here, and over here I'll be dividing by 15. So in my calculator, if I do 48 times 4 divided by 15, I get A. So the correct answer here is A.